Santa Clara City Council work meeting to order. Appreciate everyone who's here tonight. Appreciate the council being here. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present from the council in council chambers, Councilman Wendell Gubler, Councilman Denny Drake, Councilman Jarrett Wade, and Councilman Ben Shakespeare. Councilwoman Lena Mathis is present via Zoom. Go ahead and chime in, Lena.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. You can hear us okay? Say yes. Okay.
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay, Lena, if you have a question, raise your hand or just interrupt as we go through here, and we'll keep you as involved as we can, or as you want to be. So without interruption, we'll go ahead and jump into the working agenda under item A, general business. I've been asked, Councilman White's requested that item number 3 maybe be moved up in the agenda, since I think most of the people may be here for item 3. So council, with your permission, I'd like to talk about item 2A3 first. Everybody okay with that? Okay, this is a one-way entrance at Gubler Park discussion. This is a discussion we've had several times in the past. Jarrett?
Yeah, I asked for this item so I can discuss it for a second. So we just had quite a few communications over the last little bit from some citizens, and primarily Ann Evans, who's here with us, about just some issues we've had with the one-way entrance at Gubler Park. And I would like to discuss this just to see if there's any other solutions we can do to help with that problem. I know we've seen in the emails that there's plenty of people that come out the wrong way, and that's upset some of the citizens. We've talked everything from tire shredders to speed bumps to redesigning everything and making it 2 ways. My personal view on this is that I don't want to redesign the whole parking lot. That's going to be pretty expensive, and restripe it and tear stuff out. I would rather see how council feels about putting in some speed bumps in just the right spots, maybe kind of near the entrance, so it slows people going in or out. Maybe some in the middle to make it just less of a through street to certain citizens. But I also kind of just wanted to invite some of the citizens as well to have some input on this, of how it has worked over the last couple of years and what they'd like to see done with it. That's basically what I have.
Okay. Is this something you want to give the opportunity for the residents to speak first, or staff?
I invited some residents to come that kind of have a view on this, but I mean, that might kind of help the council with their discussion if we get their input first, okay, to be honest.
All right. Ann? Just need you to state your name and your address for the record.
Ann Evans, can you hear through this mask? 3772 Nicholas Drive. I appreciated Jarrett bringing this up again. As you know, we were here last February, and I have to tell you, it has not improved to our satisfaction. The extra signs have been very nice, but just like with speeding signs and no parking signs, people just disregard it. And just this past 2.5 weeks over Christmas, it was probably one of the worst holiday seasons I've ever seen for wrong-way drivers coming out. It was horrible. And I know that we have a lot of transient people at Blackhawk. I know this because they're in our ward, and I know how difficult it is to keep track of all the people that move out and all the people that move in. It's almost impossible to keep our roll up to date. And in fact, just on our Relief Society letter, there were 6 new families that they welcomed to the ward. So it's just this constant turnover. And when we were in church in person, not just on Zoom, we could talk to people and we could explain to them what the situation was, and please not to keep coming out the wrong way. But because a lot of us are not in that situation now because we go to church on Zoom. We don't have that interaction with the people. So I've discussed a few things with Jared. I am definitely in favor of whatever we could do to make this problem so that it at least comes up to what we thought it was going to be in 2016. I have a picture that I just wanted to pass around to some of you, and this is just an idea I have because while I still am loving the idea of speed tables, and meaning speed tables that go all the way across the parking lot in a couple of places, because you know if you just put them in the center, people will just tear around them. So I'm still in favor of a tire shredder, and I say this with a lot of hesitation because I've tangled with the tire shredder, you know, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was towing a boat, and I was coming out of the boat launch ramp down by the Long Beach Arena, and it was a curve. It was a sharp curve, and the tire shredder was right in the middle of the curve, and I didn't want to drive up over the dang curve with the trailer, so I backed up and flattened a tire on the boat trailer. So I know fully well what it's like to have a tire, and it's immediate. You're not going anywhere on that tire. It's immediate. But I have also talked to many people who work for the park services, and some are retired, some are still there. They have told me, if you really intend to stop these people from going the wrong way, you have to take an action like this that will make them stop. Otherwise, they will never stop. They will just keep doing what they're doing. So if I can I approach and just hand you these pictures?
Absolutely.
And they try so carefully to navigate that tight, and it's tight. It's a tight right turn, you know, that's the way. They drive over the curb. They'll do anything except take 30 seconds to go around on Patricia. So I am still lobbying for a tire shredder if there could be one there. But if you really hate that idea, and like I say, I've tangled with them. I know exactly how bad they can be. But in that straight section, you know, there's room to put one kind of at the front of it, so that if a person decided to make that right turn, if they saw it, they would still have time to get out and not come up. And on the same hand, if somebody's coming out of the parking lot, they have time to go over it straight and get out to the street and not have to back up. So that's just my suggestion, and that's just from talking to a lot of people. But other than that, the speed tables, they have them over at the Dixie Center. They work pretty well. I'm desperate at this point. You know, this has been almost 3 years, and I'm just so afraid that somebody's gonna get hit or killed because there are so many little kids out there on our corner at the four-way. And I see people come tearing through there. They know they're not supposed to be. So they think if they hurry, if they come out really fast, that we won't see them. And then they just tear up the street. Most of them don't even stop at the stop. So that's my That's my main concern. And I hope that you will look at this and consider our plight, because it is a plight for our community. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Sir, and come on up.
My name is Michael Lee, and I live at 2312 Jacob Drive. Not speaking for anyone but myself, just speaking is just a guy. I live down the street from the entrance. I first want to say thank you so much for everything you guys have done so far. When this was initially proposed, the community there asked for some things and the city wanted to do something else, and I've always felt like both sides gave a little and there was a compromise. And I guess I just have a different experience. My greatest fear is that you guys are going to get frustrated, throw your hands up and say, well, look, let's just turn it into two-way traffic if it's that big of a problem. And I just want to just voice as strongly as I can. If the compromise has to be that it remains as it is, I'm the safety man for the Washington County School District. You can't make people comply. I know that better than anyone in the world. You can paint every curb and you can put up every sign and you can do everything short of having a buddy system where someone is watching people nonstop. There's just no way that you're going to make people do something. I feel like if you guys add any more signs over there, it's going to start looking like the Las Vegas Strip after a while. I mean, there's only so much you can do to tell people, look, you are, by this point, if someone's going the wrong way on that street, I'm pretty confident that they are aware of the fact that they are going the wrong way on that street, and they don't care. So what I'm trying to say is this. I guess I just have a different experience over there. The last thing in the world I'd like to see is that my 7-year-old daughter riding her bike and trips over a stake sticking out of the middle of the street. So I think you guys are really trying hard. I can see that you guys really are trying to listen to the concerns, and I recognize you're trying as hard as you can, but I don't know what more you guys are expected to do besides just, I mean, law enforcement can't dedicate themselves to one intersection, and realistically, people are going to do what people are going to do. Please don't change that to a two-way street. I don't even know if that's on the table, but I feel like it in terms of the best worst case scenario, I feel like that this is better than a two-way street. So I appreciate you guys considering this again and talking it over. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address council on the Goober Park parking lot?
My name is Allison Snyder. I live at 2326 Jacob Drive. The thing that I would like to say is that the people who misuse the one way in the parking lot are people who do not are not invested in the community. They are people who are there to play a game of pickleball. They are people from out of state for a baseball tournament. They are renters who live in the townhomes, who are somewhat transient they're just for a couple of years, they're renters. They speed. They not only go the wrong way, but they also speed because they know they're doing something wrong. And so there have been a couple incidences. I live on the intersection where you come out from that parking lot. And there have been a couple incidences since March, since we first came. We last addressed this in February, I believe, where my kids have almost gotten hit by cars that are leaving. There have been times when just by someone leaving the parking lot. They don't stop at that stop sign. And I entreat you to please treat this as a parking lot. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the best thing to assume the best of people who are using that parking lot. They're going to take the easiest route out, and that that parking lot is a lot smoother and it's wider and it's not constantly in use. It's wider than the road that they're supposed to be using, which is not developed. And I appreciate you guys addressing this. I ask you to please do something to try to prevent people from using it the wrong way. For example, if you're going to put speed bumps across, you're going to have to put it across the whole parking lot. Because like in the high school parking lot, people just, when there's not cars parked there, they just drive around. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? He's I'm looking at him. He knows I'm looking at him. You got anything to bring forth from the police department? Give us an update, just. Sure. Oh, we'd love that opinion. We may even implement it tonight, so put it in the form of a motion.
No, I think as the police department, I think when you're talking about safety and stuff, the idea of tire shredders were brought up, and I'll be honest with you, it's a park. Kids ride their bikes there constantly, and I think a tire shredder would be a horrible idea to put there. I could imagine, you're going to talk about your children with children live right there. They'll ride on that and hurt themselves. The idea was brought up. The reason why they hurry through that parking lot is because they don't want to get caught while they're driving down that way. That would be an easy fix if you did open it up to a two-way area. I think that's kind of what our the police department's thoughts would be, that the easy fix for that would be to make it a two-way road, the way it was discussed in the very beginning. But I mean, in the end, we'll enforce whatever there is. But it is virtually impossible for our agency, the size that it is, to set a person up there 24/7. We have had officers go up there. We've had special time, especially when there's been ball games. We'll make sure that we put it out there that when they have free times, they'll go up to the ball game and sit there. But honestly, when that parking lot's full, it's hard for a single vehicle to get out that way. Generally, the problems of basic more occur when there's nothing going on up there and you have people using pickleball courts. I think that's kind of your main thing. I sat up there personally. It's been about a year or so. And the two people that I caught going out of there, one lived right in the neighborhood and the other one lived across the street on Jacob Drive. So generally the people that we've noticed making those are the ones that live kind of in that area. It's very convenient for them to go there, use the park, and leave the same way rather than going all the way around. But anyways, that's kind of our thoughts on that. You guys have questions?
Questions for Rich?
Rich, just on as far as a speed bump or something like that, what's your opinion on if
They slow people down. There's no doubt about that. Speed bumps will slow people down. So it just kind of depends on, what the design is that you guys want to do. So, yeah, they talked about the ones down there by the Dixie Center. I'm not sure what it's called, but the convention center. Those work really well. People slow down.
Other questions?
I got a question about the apartments and condominiums that are there. You get a lot of traffic from those going the wrong way?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know. Just under my experiences, the people that I've had go the wrong way have been ones that live on the south side of the park. They're generally going home. I would imagine most of the people that go that way live on that side of town. They'll go through there, use the pickleball court, and rather than going around, they'll just cut right back through. That's generally what we've noticed in the department. I know I think, Jack, it was a year ago, we put up that JMAR system that kind of ran through there, and I mean, it's showing vehicles coming that way, but usually in those times where the pickleball courts are used during the summer, it's early in the mornings and late at night, and during this time, when the sun's up, people can warm up. So I think my thought would be most of those people that are coming that way are people that live on the south side of the road.
If you put a speed bump just before the stop sign, would that slow it down for the stop sign?
Yeah, sure.
That way they wouldn't be running through a
Speed bumps are
stop
gonna slow
sign?
people down no matter what. It just depends on if you want to put them in a roadway or not. It's just kind of I don't know what that would be a streets question. But yeah, speed bumps slow people down.
Yes, they do work, but you have to be careful. We had an incident where we put some asphalt in the road down here. Some kids went down and rode over on their bike and wrecked, and the city got sued. So you got to make sure you put them in the right places and make sure it works, because if somebody goes across it on their bike and wrecks, could possibly get sued. So we got to be careful what we do and make sure it's approved and go through the proper process. So that's the only fear I have, is you put a bump in there and then kids go riding through there on their bike and hit it and wreck and slide across the asphalt and, break their teeth out and do damage. We've had it happen, on our sidewalks. And it's the same thing if you put a bump out in the road. I'd rather see it back in the park than I would out on the road. Absolutely not on the road, but maybe back in the park.
Yeah, I would agree with Jack on locating bumps, not putting them out on the street. I think we kind of set a dangerous precedent locating the speed bumps out inside the public travel right of ways, but inside the park, I think that can happen. And there's a couple areas inside the park you could locate a speed bump appropriately, and if you did the table top one, they're a lot safer than like the ones at the high school. So, any other questions for Rich, Council? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here tonight. Jack, anything to add to what you've already stated, or Brad?
I know that when we did the original designs for the park, we did have a speed table on the sidewalk between fields 2 and 3 that would go across to the school. We didn't incorporate that in this particular design, but it was in, I don't know if it was in this design originally or the other options we were looking at. I'm dead set against spikes in the road or tire shredders, just because of the safety for small children. Especially after dark, they're out there playing around or riding their bike through there. They wouldn't see it. And I could just see somebody being impaled by a spike or their bicycle, or accidents there. But my thought is that the speed table will slow people down, but it won't make them go the right way. You can put all of those things in there unless it's bad enough to where it deters people not to want to drive that way, period. If you've got big tables and their car drags or something like that. But unless it's something, will deter people from wanting to drive in there, period. It's not, I don't think it'll be effective, personally.
Scott, Jack, do you remember when we walked the side, or Brock? Scott mentioned some type of is it a gate or a arm? That would only open going the right direction. So as you came north into the park, you'd probably be located on the south end of the park. As you came in, it would automatically open, but it would make you stop and then open. But going the other direction, it wouldn't open. It would only trigger going the correct way. Otherwise, is that what it was talking about, Brock?
Yeah, something like that, just an arm like going into a parking garage type.
I don't know, that we could look and see what the costs on that would be. It was some kind of a sensor that triggered it to open, but it wouldn't open going the other direction. So you couldn't go the wrong way out there without penetrating the gate. That may be something we could look at cost-wise too, as well, because that would definitely slow them down and would eliminate the wrong way guys, unless they drove up on the lawn.
I think that's a good idea. I just worry about maintenance, and then I worry about the kids out there hanging on it and trying to get it to go on and off, because it's not like it's supervised, you know. I think that'd be a little bit tough.
My bet
That
is
would be
we
my
would
vote.
replace that 6 times a year with people hitting it and bending it and brushing up against it, and it would probably work, but the ones I know, we get replaced a lot.
We could have Gary build it and make it look like the front grill cover on Mad Max's truck. So hit it all you want, it still won't open. But I don't know if we wanted to look at costs on that or anticipated, but just an idea Scott mentioned that day when we were on site that I thought he may have some value. So.
Just have another citizen come in here. Speak.
Trying to remember his name. He's the traffic guy. Bond. Mr. Bond.
We moved the agenda item up, so.
You're up. The podium's empty. You want to address the council? Well, we moved it up to number 1. That's how important you are. Come on up, state your name, and give us your feedback. We've already heard from your fellow residents up there.
Sorry, I'm late. Thanks for letting me come in. I didn't know that I'd be speaking, but I do have a few things to say. And this, of course, is about the Jacob Drive street going into the park. We have, can I take this off? My talk?
It's up to you. You can take it off. You're far enough away if it's easier for you.
Thank you. As originally, you remember the neighborhood, which was, I think, 80 signatures. People wanted no entrance to the park. We wanted it blocked off. So finally, we and you decided it would be a one-way street. And we agreed. We thought one way would be good. So we felt that was a promise from the city council to be a one-way street. And you put the signs up. You've done what some people would think would be a reasonable amount of work on making it a one-way street. But guess what? It didn't work. It still isn't a one-way street. People are still coming out of there. And I guess my thinking is this. I think you've made it way too hard to fix this problem. I think the easy solution, and there must be somebody on city council that doesn't like the idea of having a tire shredder put where the stop sign is that comes close to that other street that comes down. What's the name of it? It's not Jacob, it's
Tuscany.
Tuscany. Sorry. There's a stop sign there, and it would be easy. There's a short distance there. Could put a tire shredder I think that would solve all the problems. I don't think it would be any problems for any individual. There would be room for bikes to go to the side. There'd be room for people to walk to the side, but cars wouldn't be able to go over. And that's the simple solution I see. Why you don't want that, I don't know. Maybe there's just one of you that doesn't want that. And if there's just one of you, I think somebody ought to take charge and ask for a vote on it. The other thing you've talked about is originally you said putting in speed bumps or those other, what are they called? Platforms to
Tabletop.
drive over. I think they would help, but I don't think they're going to solve the problem. So if you want to go back and keep your promise of making it a one-way street going in, I think the neighborhood would be fine with that, and you could fix it quite easily. Any questions for me?
We talked, just so you know, Mr. Bond, we talked about a tire shredder. There is some opinion from public safety that it's not a good idea to mix it with the park, that there's some additional danger for kids and stuff relative to that. So that was discussed before you walked in, just so you know. And we have talked about tabletops as well.
Can I mention one rebuttal into that?
Absolutely.
The only tire shredder in the area that I know of is at Snow Canyon State Park at the campground. And I went up and talked to the leaders of the park. They've had it there for about 20 years. I actually worked at the park about 15 years ago, 16 years ago for a while. And I asked the leaders, are there any problems with this tire shredder? No, there's no problems with the tire shredder. They do. So the kids get on the tire shredder and mess around with it. No, they don't. They stay away from it. If you have any trouble with cars, I think they said in the 20 years they've had it, 1 or 2 cars tried to go the wrong way. And yes, they had a problem. So how many cars go in there compared to how many are going into the park over here? Probably 20% or 30%, that many. So you can kind of get an idea of what it might be. So if you really want to see how that works, go up to Snow Canyon State Park, pay your $5 or $6 to get in, drive through the park campground area and look at the tire shredder and drive back out. I think it would be a great time to spend and to see how it works for yourself.
Thank you, sir. Okay, council. We probably can't make a decision tonight, a recommendation. We can probably request staff to look at something in more detail and bring an item back. If there's some direction you want to give to staff that way.
Yeah, I can pipe in for sure. I would love to just try everything we can. And I think the one thing we've talked all along is a speed table and some speed bumps. So I'd just love to see what staff thinks about how we would do that and how effective it would be in the different spots. It does look like there's a couple thin spots where you could probably put them and wouldn't be a big expense to the city and should help with the speeding and making it just less convenient. I think like what Mr. Lee said, like people are always going to break things like that where it's not, doesn't seem to hurt anyone. And so if we can just make it less convenient for them, then they'll at least think twice about it. Maybe we'll get a few less. I did want to bring up, I did call and speak to Michael's wife today, and her main point she wanted to get across was that right now there's a big ball tournament. There's quite a bit of traffic on Jacob, but they're only getting half that traffic right now. And so the trade-off for having some people go the wrong way during the early hours or late at night was worth it to her versus getting two-way traffic coming during those big ball tournaments. And so she was definitely in favor of leaving it the one way and then just doing some speed bumps or speed tables.
Ben, anything?
Yeah. and I've spoke on this in the past. So first off, as far as the design, you've got, we've got stop signs on both sides of this property, in and out. We've got arrows, it's well striped. It's, the signage is up. It's so to sit there and say, well, they come through fast because they know they're breaking the law. I live on Benelli right there, and if you want to go watch fast, go watch them race down Benelli and run through the stop sign. And they're people are going to do it. I'm not going to sit out there and, you know, they blow through that stop sign all the time, and it just is. But if you look at the design and you look at the signage that's up there and the way it's striped and the way it's the city's done a very good job, and you know you're going the wrong way. I'm 100% against tire shredders. If the residents want to sign off on the liability, the difference is this being still Snow Canyon State Park is you've got homes, residents, kids that use this park daily. They play night games out there. This has will have much more traffic than what's been referenced there. I think it's a huge liability, and I'm 100% against it. The speed bump, yeah, possibly. I think in this picture that we were given, you could put one there, and it would make it inconvenient coming back, but then you're hitting it both directions. Again, I've spoken. I know this isn't what the residents want, but I have no problem with redesigning it and making it you just don't have much access there and going two-way, but I know that's not what people want. And I think we've tried to accommodate. I just don't know what else you do. I think certainly you can patrol it. We can put up cameras and everything else, but I'm not opposed to a speed bump. I think that would certainly make it less convenient going across there. But yeah, outside of that, I think it would have to be inside the parking lot there. But I just don't know what else we do on this. I think we could take every street in the city if we wanted to look at people violating the law, and they would be violating the law. They're speeding, they're going through stop signs, they're not stopping, it's just so to sit there and say, well, it's solely to this. I don't know what else we can do there outside of just setting an officer out there and writing tickets all day. But they could do that on any street.
Thanks. Danny?
The times, are they significant with tournaments, or are we talking about daily? I don't quite understand when the problem exists. Pardon? So it's not just when we're having outside people. We're talking about the people that live in Santa Clara doing the same thing.
For an example, over Christmas, it was a lot of out-of-town people. I could tell by the license plates. And it was all day, it was during the night. But in the ball game situation, yeah, they're parked. And so it's difficult for people to come out. Although people have figured a way around that. They just back in to the parking spaces, and then they just pull out and come right out the wrong way. Now, when I suggested the tire shredder down at that bottom end, I do that knowing that, yes, anybody in the upper part is going to be above that tire shredder. It would mostly affect people from Tuscany, Blackhawk, and the pickleball courts, because on a normal day, like today, that's where 75% of the people come from. Yeah, you get the people that go out and walk their dog, and they come out the wrong way. And you do have people on a ball game day. And the ones that live here, that go up there a lot, like you, when we have ball games and we're not under COVID restrictions, you know to go out the other way. And a lot of people have learned that, and they respect our neighborhood, and so they go. But there's always going to be some, they back their truck in and they come out the wrong way. It just happens. And so that's quite a bit on ball game day, but any day of the week. And I appreciate the officer saying that they have patrolled it. I don't see him patrolling I honestly think if they were patrolling more and if they wrote more tickets than 2 ever since this thing started, people would know. They would get the word. They would say, hey, they're writing tickets up there. Don't come out the wrong way. But I rarely see an officer, even in our neighborhood, let alone the park. So, and I know there's not money for it, but I just bring another thing to your attention, and you said this last February, as far as the 2-way in that parking lot, when there's a ball game and it's over, and they'll have several ball games during a day. When you start at 7 in the morning and you go till 11, there would be 5, 6 changes throughout the whole time. Kids are running out to the cars. I've seen it. And you can't have a 2-way in that parking lot with these kids running out to get in the car. You said this yourself last time in February. It would be too dangerous. And I've seen it. I saw it happen in a rainstorm right after they opened the park. It was absolutely calamity out there. People are coming and going the wrong way. The rain's pouring down. They can't see. So a 2-way would just be totally dangerous in that parking lot situation. And I think the salient point is it is a parking lot. It's not supposed to be a through street. It's a parking lot. That's how you guys designed it. That's what you had in your mind when you finally came up with this. This is a parking lot. We're not going to let it be a through street. That's in the minutes. You can read it yourself. So I know you don't like the tire shredder. Like I say, I've tangled with them. I don't like them myself. And this would only cut down that 70, 75% at the north end. But
So tell me, is it the speed or just the fact that they're doing it?
it's both. It's both.
So if we put in the speed bumps,
Yeah, a couple at least.
and that should control some of the speed,
That would help.
but until we educate to be obedient to the law, how would you like to correct that?
Hey, this is why we're here. You know,
Right.
I know it wasn't your idea because you weren't on the council and Mr. Gubler wasn't and Mr. Shakespeare wasn't. And at the time, I thought, well, surely they have considered a plan B or a plan C if this fails. But after all this time, no. So I am thankful that the mayor mentioned a gate. I know one of the things they had back in 2016 was a crash gate. That was one of the plans. Another one was a hammerhead. There were about 5 different plans they came up with. And this 1-way was, you know, a thing they came up with. So I have to tell you, when I went home that night and said they had voted on this 1-way, my husband looked at me and he said, that is a plan set to fail. And I said, oh, no, I think they're really going to do this. And I really have faith. I think they're going to stand with us. Well, my husband has kept saying it. This is a plan set to fail. So I don't know if you can do a gate like they have at airports. I don't know what you can do. I don't know if you need to talk to other people that do parking lots in major areas, but this really needs to be fixed. It needs to be tended to because it is a dangerous situation, and our neighbors, our neighborhood is the thing that's at risk. I know you don't live there, so you don't experience it, but we do every single day.
Well, so as I'm looking at it, to me, we need to control the speed factor within the parking lot. That would be number one. And probably the easiest way to do that without becoming a real hindrance to traffic, period, would be the speed bumps or the flat tabletops. And to me, maybe moguls. So that when they go over one, they're not immediately released from going fast again. There is another one. And so you create a runway situation and eliminate that runway situation by creating the tabletops and view it. And we have the signage out there. we could get people to be obedient to the law, which is done mostly by cities, then we relook at something, an alternative, maybe a gate, maybe the tire shredder, but eliminate the speed, and people will not want to go over those and hit the bottom of their car to get out. If we can make that initially strong enough, then we hope that'll turn them the other way. But, you know, I agree with you. I don't know, like your husband said, that's a plan to fail. I don't know that you can, till people are obedient to the law, you're going to have people doing it, just hopefully that we can cut back on the numbers. So that's my opinion.
Wendell, got anything?
I'm against having a tire shredder. I think it'd be too much of a liability. And I'd hate to see a kid in a tire shredder in the nighttime on a bike. I think trying to speed bumps, I think we ought to look at doing that. I think maybe Jack could get us an idea of how many we could put in and how we could limit the speed in the parking lot. I think it'd be a good idea.
Jack, get with Brad, come back with the plan and maybe some costs, and we'll talk about it at a future meeting.
Mayor, does Lena have any input on that?
Oh, hey, sorry, Lena,
You're okay. It's no problem.
your turn.
I would be 100% opposed to a tire shredder. I think for me, the difference between the gentleman who spoke
You're breaking up.
company who go to that park.
Go back and say the last
Sorry,
sentence.
can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
I said,
We're against the tire shredder, but we missed it after that.
there's just a lot of unaccompanied children who go to that park. And so I don't think that's a wise decision. I think the speed tables are a good idea to slow traffic. I don't think they're going to entirely stop the one-way issue, but I'm open to looking at those. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, Jack, get with Brad and let's look at maybe a concept and some costs and bring it back to council. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your input, folks. Okay, budget amendment discussion, Mr. Jacobson.
All right. So we spoke, I shared this back in December. Council talked, said about bringing back, showing some of the things that were removed from the budget. When we were in the budget process, when the pandemic COVID-19 hit. And so I have in your packet, we put together a list of things that in the budget, not only just the project or equipment that we removed, but also just in operating expenses where we tried to went to cut things back as much as we could. Knowing that also in some of the aspects we cut, we knew in some ways that the number that we had in there of staying within that was going to be very difficult. Some of them, as we spoke, is like in the building department, we cut legal fees way down, knowing based on years average that the chances of if things went as they had done, we weren't going to be able to stay within that. But we cut to try to make things fit with the uncertainty of where the economy would be during this current fiscal year. So as you can see, from the general fund, we cut $250,000 in operating expenses, $212,000 in equipment and improvements. So that total of about $470,000. Also from the enterprise funds, totaling about $368,000. Those are the things we removed, we took out, trying to balance the budget. And so Coming back, as you can see some from the fire, it's the washer and dryer and some AC units, the streets, a dump truck, parks had mowers, also a resurfacer and Hubler Park, like a slurry seal. Also water had a truck and then sewer cameras. Coming forward now, things we want to add in is back to parks, the exact same things, the mowers, Hubler Park, seal coat, and the resurfacer attachment. One thing we didn't have in there was a street sweeper. Now the numbers I had in there don't have the street sweeper that's outside because we haven't got numbers for sure on what that would cost on leasing that. We have the fire department. They're the AC units, the washer, dryer, extractor. We also had in doing the approaches, fixing those, which are straight from the general fund. We have talked about the impact fee eligible items of remodeling there at we were to put in the sleeping quarters and updating the Rachel Drive Fire Station. That's what we have from the general fund. We would like to add in. And then from the enterprise funds, adding a bucket truck to the power department, and the dump truck will actually come out of from the water department, not from the streets department. So, and then the other aspect would be wage increases that we removed from the budget. We would like to implement those now at this time, which as I had in the one slide here, the wage increases to the general fund. Total for the time for this budget would be is only actually back to the general fund is 42,000, and then 21,000 to the enterprise funds.
So where are we getting the money for these?
So the revenues are well exceeding our anticipated revenues. We are currently through, for the general fund, through 50% of the year, our revenues are at 77% of budget. So we're roughly 27% ahead of what we had projected. So through that, most of the, minus the wage increases, well, these are all one-time purchases that we'll have, and that we have the funds there to, with that increased revenue, to be able to cover these expenses.
And Brock, most of these items were in the budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or when we went through our budget development last spring, it was only when we were anticipating the revenues may drop because of COVID that we dialed everything back to be conservative. And what we're seeing is we're not being impacted on our revenue side as much as we had anticipated. We're collecting those revenues, and so we want to put some of those items we took out back in. The need is probably there.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And again, in our meeting, Mayor and Council, we had said that we would reevaluate later in the year, seeing what it was affected.
So the only item that is really new to this that wasn't removed is the bucket truck in the power department. That's the only item that wasn't in the budget at the time, but it's come to Jack's attention with a couple of our new poles that we have. Our bucket truck is not tall enough to reach, so it need to be able for us to be able to do some of the maintenance. We need taller boom. Jack can speak to that.
And with the bucket truck that we've got, our large bucket truck now, we can't reach the poles that do the work if we have an outage. And even the one that we have to drive right up the next to 65-foot pole to reach the top of it. It's really, really tight. We have to put the nose right up against the pole, and then we can actually reach the top if we can clear the phases. This won't be a new truck. This will be a used truck that we'll try to get from somewhere if we can find one. I know Hurricane City found one for around $200,000, a used truck. And then what we'll do is we'll take our old truck and put it up for sale, the one that we have. So Gary would probably like to keep the old one too, so that when are out working, we'd have two, but most of the time, it's kind of a sad thing because they do sit there a lot. But when you have an emergency, you got to have it. Kind of like a fire truck, you know, you got to be able to work the poles. So,
What about a 10-foot ladder in the old bucket?
Yeah.
I mean, would that get us there? Just a.
they can maybe get a forklift and lift the truck up.
And they can tie off to the ladder.
Jack, I don't know if you're aware, but the mayor in Rockville took care of the main light in Rockville. Remember that street light that hung down in the middle of town? And I think our mayor, he had a truck and he'd back it up and he put the 10-foot ladder up and crawled up the ladder and changed the bulb. I think Mayor Rosen could do that and, you know.
Yeah.
75 feet in the air.
I'm in, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's why we put it in there. And you know, in the next few years, we'll be building that line over towards Green Valley, and we'll have all those poles that we've got to maintain also. That we've got some pretty good valleys and hills that we'll need to get into.
If you're ready for a motion.
That's fine.
No.
Unless anybody wants.
Yeah, this is just to discuss, just to bring back and let you know, we'll,
Write it down and you can read it.
Well, what I'm going to just say is, you know, all this hinges on Brock. If there's any foul ups, we'll take it out of his pay.
Absolutely. Same, it's, you know, it's item 4G in his contract. Anybody that deals with budget shortfalls.
And Mayor, on that, just commend all of us, because that's a pretty big cut going into a budget year, and we've been
Here we are.
very fortunate, but here we are, because it could certainly be the other way, but I commend, it went well, and appreciate staff and Brock and everybody just holding tight for a little bit, because I don't think any of us knew, so.
Any questions for Brock or Jack for council?
I just think Brock was wise in pulling back, making sure we had the money. I think that's a good judgment. I'm glad it worked out.
I'm glad we got the opportunity to put it back in. I'm glad we're not sitting here talking about the next round of cuts.
yeah, we definitely have been, you know, lucky, you know. I wouldn't have anticipated where we are today. When we were going through this in April, May, June, that when we made the cuts, that we would be sitting here and saying, hey, we are financially okay to do all what we want to do right now, putting everything back in. I could have seen some, but not everything with the way the revenues have been. And things are continuing, that things are look good for, you know, Santa Clara right now. Betting something else doesn't hit and got some more changes, but
It have started today. Was what happened in DC.
yeah.
Things might be on the way.
But we a lot of good things, you know, happening. So Santa Clara.
Thank you, Brock. Let's bring it back.
Okay.
Item number 2. This is the gated community discussion, Brock.
Yeah. So on the gated communities, we brought this, I think it was the first regular meeting in December, or take that back. It was the special meeting in December following Planning Commission. Planning Commission reviewed it and sent it on to City Council for approval on gated communities where our current ordinance does not allow gated communities. And they had worked on it, Matt and Devin. We worked and put together rewriting that ordinance on gated communities. City Council at the time discussed it, but wanted to take a further look at it. So that's why we brought it back tonight, is for that additional discussion. There were a lot of, I think, a lot of questions on exactly how, if we were going to allow them, how we wanted them to be allowed. How would it be? Would it be under, you know, single ownership as the Dave Rose's Regal Homes has discussed, or more of a traditional gated community where, you know, home ownership or and multiple people could own in that gated community. So there's just a lot of discussion that was not, I think felt council wasn't sure on how they want to do it. So we want to just bring it back to council for discussion. We have Matt can help with the ordinance. and discussion on that. But it's really back to council for discussion on how they want direction for, I guess, for staff, for Matt to proceed on with the ordinance, what they would like to see in it, if they want to change and allow gated communities, or if they would like, council would like to leave it as is and not proceed with a ordinance change.
Okay, council. I wasn't there when you talked about this one before. So I can tell you that, looking at it, that I think the only way that I would support it is for a single ownership property. I don't want it to create an impediment to the community. Like a gated community like Entrada, that have to have membership to get in to the community. But felt like maybe it could work on a single ownership property. Rick Lloyd is here from Regal Homes, just so that you know he's a partner associate with Mr. Rose. And so he's available to answer questions if anybody has any questions, or if we want to hear from him as part of this discussion. So, Matt, I don't know if you want to start with just if there's any feedback from council, there's been any changes made or any edits made or anything regarding the ordinance, okay?
Haven't made any changes since the last time it was discussed by council. So there wasn't any specific direction that came out of that discussion, just a desire to look at it some more. So.
Okay, all right. Anyone have any comments you want to start us off with? Council?
Mayor, this is Dave Rose here. I just want to make sure that you know I'm on Zoom and I'm available to answer any questions as well this afternoon, together with my partner, Rick Lloyd.
Okay, thank you, Dave. You're just a little teeny box a long ways away, so appreciate you speaking up.
Yep. Maybe I could, if you give me just a quick second, maybe I could just speak briefly to this. This exciting new residential project, these rental communities that we're seeing coming across the nation. We've got Lennar's done one in Sparks, Nevada. We've got Christopher Todd communities throughout Arizona. We've got ERC in Florida, and we've got others via in Arizona and Denver and through Texas. So these really are taking shape. They're exciting. And I think the main thing is to not think of them more than they are. They're important. They're going to be great. They're going to give the ability to people that are in a transition to have housing that provides for their needs when they maybe don't have a down payment. They can put on a house, or they've run into a disillusion of a marriage, or maybe they're an older couple that want to live and be close to their kids, but they just can't afford a house. So this is a great opportunity for that. But it's very similar to an apartment. And just like an apartment building will have a gate that an owner will put up so that not anyone can just drive in and park in the apartment community. That's what happens here in these for rent communities. It's a single owner, just like an apartment building would be. We are highly motivated and economically incentivized to maintain the property. We'll be spending tens of millions of dollars as we go forward, and we've bought the property and we make the improvements, and we keep the houses good and the roads good. The roads are all private. We have to take care of them, and we want to take care of them, because if we don't, we just don't get any renters. I mean, that's the nice thing. I mean, if we don't do a good job, people move out, and we have created this to be a luxury community. So I think the incentives all line up. It makes good sense, and the gates provide us with safety for our residents. It also prevents any sort of bad behavior that sometimes can happen even more, it's positive from a parking perspective because it causes our people, they're going to park inside our community. They aren't going to park on the street surrounding it because they're going to park inside the gates. So there are just so many positives that line up with this. I hope that you will consider this and approve this. I know this is a work session, but I hope that you'll advance this forward so that we can have a vote on it and approve it. But I'm here to answer any other questions. My partner, Rick Lloyd, is, and thank you. Thank you for the consideration.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, council. I don't know where the discussion left off at the council meeting. Do we want to start that? Concerns with the
Mayor,
ordinance?
maybe I'll go because I did voice some concerns and I've thought a lot about this, trying to, I think part of it is it is a new concept. It's something we're trying to get our heads around, trying to understand better. The more I've looked into it, the more I've studied it, the more I've looked at what it is, and it's I'm right now doing the plumbing on a 4-story gated apartment building in Washington City. And it's going to be nice, but it's 4 stories apartment. And so the more I've looked into this, it is going to be, I think my concern was it's a gated apartments, but it is, looking at them and studying them and understanding them, they're much nicer than, they're single level or, they're low profile, so I guess my tune's changed a little bit on it now that I've understood it a little better, now that I've pulled them up and looked a little more around what they really are. Again, I've spoken on the gated. I'm not opposed to gated communities as it is, and as the things get more turmoil out there, I think there's safety in gates and security in that. But I understand what the council stands on it and respect that. But I just wanted to clear that up, that I understand it better. I trust what the legal counsel's put in there, and I do think it does fill a need in our neighborhood, in our community if done right. So I think I'll just speak on that.
Thank you. Lena?
Can you hear me okay this time?
Yeah, so far.
Okay, good. I'm share the opinion with you, Mayor. I'm really concerned about private streets. I think we're setting ourselves up for unintended consequences. To like the comment that was made, it's a plan to fail with the one-way road. I personally just don't like the idea of private streets and the way you streets is through gated communities. I was open to having a discussion about a gated community with the single owner idea, only because then it's restricted just to one person, and potentially that would limit the number of these types of developments that we would see. And I'm still open to the idea, but I'm really opposed to any private street ideas. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Lena. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm against gated communities in our communities because it's something we haven't had in the past. And I think I can understand where the developer's coming from of creating a safety thing there. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough data to say it's like, really increase safety to make that a change to our law, basically to allow that. And from what I understand from our last discussion, when you were here, Mayor, like that was probably put in the code because of problems in St. George of citizens calling and saying, why isn't my road fixed? Why is my sidewalk cracked? And there was no one to turn to, so the city just had to go in and fix it. So having the one owner does solve that, I think. But I do also, I just think I'm with Lena on, and it's not even just the roads, it's the sidewalks, it's the utility lines, it's the gutters. There's quite a bit in there that I could see a citizen calling the city and saying, why isn't this fixed? And, we could certainly say, go back to who you're paying your rent to. But I just could see that being problematic long-term. Maybe it's fine now, but what happens in 20, 30 years when things may have changed with ownership or whatever, and then what happens then? So I'm also not a big fan of any private streets.
Hey, this is Dave Rose, and I don't mean to jump in, but I want to make sure that people don't miss the good work product that your city attorneys put forward, and that's Matt Entz. So some of these issues you're talking about is with private roads and how are they maintained? Of course, as I already explained, we have a huge economic incentive to maintain them, and the individual tenants are far different than a homeowner on a private street, because a homeowner will have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in their house, and they can't move if there's a problem with the street, or it makes it much harder to move. These tenants, they're in there for 6, 12, 18 months, but if we don't maintain the project, they leave. They don't lose a deposit. They don't lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. They just walk away. So that's part of it. But Matt has already built into your proposed new ordinance in 2G, paragraph 2G, the ability of the city to require the work to be done. And if we don't do the work, to do the work itself and then lien our property, charge us administrative fees, and charge legal fees against us. So I think he's done an excellent job of going the extra mile to make sure that disrepair is not going to happen. And I have a hard time. I struggle with this because we're talking about, we don't like private roads. Well, I guess you don't like a private lane that drives into someone's apartment project, because that's the same type of thing we're talking about. Are you going to prohibit someone from putting in a lane so that people can get to where they park their cars? I mean, that's all we're doing. This is very similar to an apartment project. We just don't have the units going vertically into the sky. They're just set out horizontally. And I can't imagine you wouldn't allow an apartment owner to have a driveway. Now, in our case, we've made our driveway the width of a city street. So it's even better than a driveway, but we maintain it. And in my experience in doing development, cities like that because the cost of the maintenance is on us. It's not on anyone else. So I think that these combination of factors really speak to the issues you're raising. And I just want to make sure that we're all aware of them. And hopefully it gives you the reassurance that you're looking for.
Thanks, Dave. Danny?
Well, there's three things. First of all, the fact that we have police and fire protection that need to be in there immediately on an emergency situation. And the gated community doesn't always have that accessibility. If someone were to die in a situation like that, I would feel that we as a community have failed them. The other thing is as Mr. Rose taught, the resolution of those problems, even if we lien the property, there is no resolution unless the property is sold and the money is given to us to protect the lien. And if the property is sold, then we have an issue with banks, ownership. And yes, I know we've got a single owner, but in my mind, what we're doing is creating a potential problem. So unless I can see the big picture, which I'm failing to see right now, I would probably be opposed to a gated, even a single owner community because of the issues that I've mentioned.
Wendell?
I done a lot of thinking about this. Santa Clara in my lifetime has changed drastically. I'm not sure this is the type of thing that we already have a lot of vacation rentals. We have apartment complexes or condominium owned complexes, much more than I ever envisioned. This is a very new concept. I know you explained, Mr. Rose, that this is happening in several different places. None of those places that you mentioned are a little small town like Santa Clara. And I'm not sure this is something that I'm interested in. More rentals.
I mean, that's probably the next application to come in, but tonight we are talking about the gates and the ability to use gates and not necessarily a project that would involve the gates. So as far as the gates go,
I see some problems with the gates, same problems that were mentioned, Jarrett, Denny. We could have to go and fix. We don't necessarily have the opportunity. I know there's opportunity there to get the money, but if you don't have an owner there to get the money from, you're not going to get the money. I'd like to hear Jack's opinion on the roads and so forth.
So can I ask just one question, and it'll lead into Jack? Just if I call on my house right now and I've got a break inside my property that for whatever reason I refuse to fix, is the city obligated to fix it?
No.
So that's kind of how I look. If you look at the what's been written in here, again, I think I don't think if somebody called in there demanding the city to respond, I don't think the city has to respond on that. It's a private property. I mean, that would be a single resident demanding a response to fix something inside their property. Again, the city could, but I think the language, if you read F and G, and just speaking on this, and again, I share a lot of the same concerns on that, but just as far as the infrastructure and how it's been written, I think we covered those items, but I guess I'd like Jack to maybe finish what.
I guess one question I have for the developer, the way I understood it is the water lines would be put in your private streets to the city standards, and then there would be individual meters that would go to each unit, which would be metered by the city. Is that correct?
We will, you're correct in that we will definitely put in all the utilities. We'll put in the water lines. We will have a master water meter is what our current consideration is. And we just pay the water bill. So we, the owner of all the land, all the houses, because there's a single owner, right? And so we pay it. And then we're just solely responsible for it. We had thought, we debated at one point, do we want to have individual meters, but it's not like the bill goes to the individual renter. It's just the city bill, the water bill just goes to us. So, our thought is just we'll have a master meter and where you just have to pay the bill.
Okay, so you're saying that we'd have one meter at the gate as it goes into your development, and then you would pay that water bill?
That's correct. The same thing with power, with everything along those lines. And we're responsible for putting it in. We'll definitely take care of it. I'd be happy to provide in response to the earlier councilman's, comment about size of communities. When I'm alluding to Phoenix, I hope I'm speaking in terms of greater Phoenix. I'm not talking about, Phoenix downtown. I'm just saying in its suburbs. The same thing. There's many smaller cities throughout the country that have this same type of community. And it works very well. It's really great.
Yeah, thank you. I looked on the internet at one of those sites and kind of seen how they ran and what they look like, and I was really impressed. I think there's something I think that would really benefit some of the people in this area. I'm not really concerned about the roads if you build them to the standards that the city has. And then to me, we're still getting the benefit of having the people here, but yet we're not paying to maintain the roads inside the development. I don't think it's much different than what we just approved with the Sullivan development up above behind Harmon's. They've got all those roads that go back into those apartments or condominiums, and they're going to maintain them. They're private.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And other municipalities have felt the very same way. They sort of say, well, this is the best of all worlds because we have a good product coming in here. It's a luxury rental community. It provides a niche for our people where maybe they don't want to live in an apartment building with, the kids in the unit above you feeling like they're jumping on your head. You want a little privacy, and you're in your own single family home. And so it works very well, very well. The other comment, just to be clear, this is not an overnight rental community. We have a few units that we'll be able to do that for. It's principally used for when, grandparents will live in one of our houses, and then maybe they have some grandkids come into town and they want them to stay, but the homes aren't huge. They're single, they're 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom homes. And there really isn't room necessarily to have family come and stay. And so they'll rent one of the other houses. But that's a very small number. These are intended to be long-term rentals. And we see people staying for well over 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. That's one of the benefits of this product, actually, is you don't have the turnover that you would have in other apartment projects or transient rental projects.
So I would imagine, even though we have one meter that would meter the whole facility, there would still probably be a fee for each unit, and we would have to have a power meter on each one of the units, or power and gas. But there would be a charge per each individual unit, I'm sure, for the water, not necessarily for the meter, but for each connection. The roads, I don't have any issues with. I know Denny mentioned the fire and being able to go in and get around and be able to turn around and come back out safely. And I think that'll all come later in the approval of the development, if it goes through, that it'll have to meet those standards or it won't be approved. But I have no issues with the road and the utilities in the interior.
Mayor, can I just add one thing to Jack's comments? The Sullivan project was mentioned with the condominiums and the approval that was given there. One thing that makes this unique, which I think cuts in its favor, is the fact that on a project like that, we have to rely on some kind of a homeowners or a condominium owners association to maintain the common areas. And I think we've all seen situations where you have a deadbeat association that isn't doing that, isn't collecting assessments, isn't performing its maintenance, and so on. Here you're always going to have an owner who does have a vested interest in operating the property for income and profit that you don't have where you have a homeowners association responsible. So, not saying that solves all the issues that have been talked about, but I do think it cuts in favor of this concept of a single owner being responsible.
I agree.
And-
On your notes in here, and maybe I've missed it, just, do we need to put something in there specific that the roads need to meet the city standard? And I don't know if that needs to be, again, it spells out in, I mean, I think it spells everything out really well as far as responsibilities. One of my questions was on a developer agreement. You've got that spelled out in here. Those things would be spelled out, but do we need any language like that? If this was to move forward, that the infrastructure within the community will meet the city standards, or is that just normal?
More concerned about the quality of the water system and making sure that it's built to our standards. Make sure that there's enough road base and asphalt, so that we're not, and have our inspectors, just inspect it and make sure that it's going into the standard that it should be. As far as the road widths inside and stuff inside, I don't know that it needs to meet the exact city standards, as long as emergency vehicles and things like that can enter and exit and do things that they need to do. I don't know, Mayor, if you feel any differently.
No, I think, again, we're getting
Way ahead.
way out ahead of the ordinance and what's on the agenda tonight. All of those issues that you guys have talked about get discussed with the PD zone, and you can condition within the PD zone to address the quality of the streets and the materials that go into it, the design standards, those types of things, how the water and everything is going to be used. The question is a gate to a single owner property. If I had an estate, like there's a gate down on in Riverfront Estates that goes to a lot that Brett Smith owns and Greg Kemp owns. There's a gate down there now. Per strict reading of our ordinance, that gate shouldn't be there. It's a single. Yeah, if I have a single owner property, can I put a gate on it and locate my home in the back? If you guys are familiar with the McDermott home down on the Santa Clara River in Green Valley, his home is quite a ways from his gate. There's a turnaround. The gate was well designed. That would be, by my reading of the ordinance, not allowed in Santa Clara. We allow gates for ag use. We allow gates to go in. Historically, there's always been some gates in there. We just haven't had them go into a community. So this is a gate to go into a community. And I think the ordinance Matt's put together addresses the issues that I was concerned about a gated community pretty well. There's still some bugs that'll have to be worked out when it comes to dealing with the project plan, like Mr. Lloyd's and Mr. Roses have going to follow this up when that comes in. Emergency vehicle access and turning radiuses to access all the units within the property. How do we deal with fire lines, unmetered fire lines that'll provide fire protection within the property, or if these are going to be sprinklered? There's some things in the weeds that are going to have to be dealt with as part of their project approval that you'll get to see and get answers to as it goes through the entitlement process as part of the zone change to the PD. The question tonight is really that gate. Do we allow those gates, or do we basically keep it open to all single owner properties where they can't put a gate in? I know this is an important issue to these guys because they want to bring a project forth. And without the gate, it changes that project design significantly from what's been presented to us. So.
And I guess dealing with experience on gated areas, for example, McDermott's, I happened to write the insurance on his home when the flood came through. And one of the issues was emergency vehicles had no access through his gate to get back to where he was losing his property in his lot. And I mean, to me, I would probably leave the ordinance alone and stay without having gated within Santa Clara.
Can I just make a comment on that, Denny?
Yeah.
I think Matt's written something in this proposal here that kind of addresses that. And as far as us getting access in and out of there, of course, it's got to meet the fire code. And we would have a proprietary override key that would be a requirement for us to get in there, in and out 24/7 whenever we want.
So
For
you cut down
emergency
the
access.
gate to get in.
Yes, so
So that's the way you would handle it, is not necessarily a key, as long as you have proprietary access. You can go in, it's like an easement. If somebody builds over the easement, you can tear down what they built.
You got a couple things you can do. They actually have a key. Some systems have a key that he packs like an
Yeah.
elevator key that'll open.
Right.
yeah, it's
understand that.
only
Yeah.
issued for the fire department, emergency, fire and police, that we can get in there.
Crash gates. I've seen crash gates where a gate that is, it's an alternative access, but the only purpose is not for ingress and egress. It's just for those guys to be able to get in.
In and out.
So they need
Right.
to do. And that would work for a public works response in the case of a flood or something else that happened out there as well. I think that could happen. Matt's got it in section 2E, I think it's, that addresses that. And again, how that applies to a particular development is dealt with,
Individually.
it's project by project, and they're all going to be a little bit different. I know that just from the projects that are starting to come in, that there's, it's just part of the change. A lot of people they feel that additional safety living behind the gate.
And I
additional
would too.
security. Well, yeah, they slashed a bunch of tires on my neighbor's truck the other night. And it kind of made me wish there was a gate on lava flow, but there's not. And I don't like the way that it segregates. My biggest problem with gates has always been the segregation that it causes within a community. They can drive in front of my house, but I can't drive in front of their house. And I think that it creates some social division within the community that I think it tends to break up the community. But it's all a social aspect and not necessarily a physical impediment, like for public safety or anything. There's always a way for public safety to get in there. Nothing makes these guys any happier than hooking a chain on a gate and blowing it off their hinges.
If I may just add to your gate question, there are some gates that will open just by a horn from the fire department, and they can be programmed for it. So we do have that, and we have a secondary access that would have similar access ways. To the social issue, I would just, again, please think of it in terms of like an apartment building. Not anyone can just go walk into an apartment building and walk down the halls where people live. We have a door that's generally locked and you have to get in, and yeah, you've got the people in the apartment community that maybe can walk down each other's halls, but it's not just open to the public in that way. And that's all this is here. We just haven't stacked everything on top of each other.
I'm probably okay with it in this application, but you guys are the ones that get to vote, so. Any questions, council? Want to ask the staff or these gentlemen, each other relative to this? This, imagine, would be coming back to us at the meeting. Any additions you want to put in the ordinance? Any question about the wording of the ordinance that you want to talk about in more detail?
Add maybe a comment. Now, we do have existing gated communities that are grandfathered in, and this would be moving forward. So I don't know if that needs to be in the ordinance, and we have existing gated communities that we maintain the roads inside, and they're not under one private ownership.
I don't think we maintain the roads inside of the existing gated.
Can't remember.
Well, there's.
I don't think you do at Lava Falls. I was the HOA president
Yeah,
there.
Lava Falls is just a driveway access, and the
Bella Bonita.
Villa Bonita.
Bella Bonita is a cul-de-sac designed to city standard, but it's a private street behind the gates. It's never been closed.
It close it now.
Do they start closing? Well, they built, yeah.
Closes at night now.
John moved in there, and now they've got security issues.
They had their
It
tires
closes at
slashed.
night now.
No, I'm just kidding.
I know it sat there for 15 years without it. I was wondering if it even
I
worked.
think it closes like at 11 or midnight or something.
But those were all done before the gate were eliminated. Those projects, go back a long time in Santa Clara of approving gates in those 3 applications. And I don't know that we've ever had a problem in any of those emergency access.
Back to those gated communities and got that Knox key, that proprietary key, so that we have access whenever we need to. So it's been taken care of since I've been here.
Any problems from police? Captain Rogers? Okay. Jack, as far as utilities? Any requests from the HOA or an owner inside to come in and repair street utility stuff, typical city function?
No, the only thing that I know, the only thing I've had that's been behind, we've had some owners down there on the Villa Bonita about with just access on the river. People back down in behind, but that's nothing that.
You're talking trespass from the kids doing the surfing?
Yeah.
down there?
But not as far as on the city streets.
I do have a question for Jack. So what would happen inside this development? Because this is different from an apartment building. I think we need to definitely make that very clear that an apartment building would have a big water line going in, it'd have a big electrical line going in. This is going to be a lot of little lines, a lot of water lines underneath streets, not inside of a building. Like what would happen if there's a major water leak and it's impacting the whole rest of the city and you're waiting on an owner to go fix it? Or what if there is like some weird electrical thing that goes on in there and it's shutting down a part of the grid and we don't have any jurisdiction over it?
Understand it, we would be no different than the gas company that has a gas line ran into the private streets. If we have a power outage, then we would have to be allowed to go in there and maintain our power system, our transformers. If we have a meter that goes bad on one of their units, we would go in and replace that unit. And it wouldn't be any different than what we do in one of our residential communities. We'd have to go in and fix it. I don't see any difference. Now, the water system, if they put the meter at the front of their facility, the water system would be theirs. We wouldn't maintain it from the gate in. They would maintain that unless we had an agreement and they put it into city standards and we said we will, or we'll bill you, we'll charge you for, if you have a water break or something, our staff can come in and fix it, but this will be our fee. And then we would go in and fit it. If they can't get it fixed, we would shut it off right at the meter. And then they would get it fixed and they'd hire a contractor to come in and fix it, I would imagine, and we'd turn it back on when they're ready.
Isn't this covered by your paragraphs F and G? Again, we certainly wouldn't have any problem in granting the utility companies the easements to do this. And if the city wants that right, I believe you already have it under F and G. But if you wanted to spell that out in the development agreement, we'd have no problem with that. Heaven forbid that there was some sort of water meltdown in our community. But in that event, just like in a residential subdivision, a standard subdivision, I would expect that the water company could come in and fix it, or the city could come in and fix it. We hadn't done our job, but we will do our job because, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have tens of millions of dollars invested in this property. It would be crazy for us to not take care of it.
And the way I've seen these done in the past on the utility service side is it's basically designed to the same redundancy that the regular city system is. There'll be loops, there'll be internal valves. You'll be able to isolate portions of this project where you, instead of taking the full 200 units out, you could take 30 units out and keep the rest in service. There'll probably be a dual water system in there. One will be the fire lines that aren't metered. That will be your responsibility, Jack, the larger lines that'll run down through. But then the separate system on the back side of the main water meter will be separate from the fire line meter. So that'll be the culinary providing your service for your culinary and your irrigation inside there on a separate one that is owned and maintained by the owner, the property owner, just like you maintain your irrigation and your water service lines on the back side of your meter to your home now. They would be doing the same thing on that side there. So there's, again, that's in the weeds on a project. You're going to look at all those issues relative to the site plan as part of the zone change or preliminary, or it wouldn't be preliminary plat, it'd be the zone change, because the next step on an apartment project would be site plan review. So it doesn't have a platting process that it goes through. So
That's why I say, you know, when they build the water lines, make sure that they're built to the city standards. That way, they're not going to have a lot of problems. And then if they have to call on us to come in and fix it, or I would recommend that they have a maintenance agreement with us to go in and fix a water break or maintain their water system for them so their valves get exercised every year. Because if you don't exercise a water valve, pretty soon it's stuck. You can't turn the water off. Eventually, you've got to replace that valve. That same issue we have with the irrigation in Santa Clara from the canal company. They never exercise their valves. So we go somewhere to turn the water off, and we've got to go 5 blocks down to turn it off, and 5 blocks the other way to try to turn it off. And we've got a great big area because they do no maintenance on their system.
I think that makes perfect sense, and that would be great to have in a development agreement. We'd have no problem with any of what you're describing. Makes good sense.
Something like that, we could go in and fix it and then just build the community.
Yeah, that would be no problem for us. That makes good sense.
Yeah.
I have a question.
go ahead, Lena.
Does development agreement that articulates those?
You're cutting out.
Owner has to maintain those same requirements.
Well, you're going to have to say it again, Lena.
Sorry.
Mike, you cut
Does
out.
the okay. Outlining those obligations, follow the land so that if the property is ever transferred, the new owner has to abide by the same obligations.
Yes, the development agreement is recorded. It's on record at the county, so anyone that acquires the land would be subject to it.
Did you hear that, Lena?
I did, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from you?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, council, any other questions? Anything that we need to direct Matt to make any changes regarding the existing ordinance that has been presented before it comes back?
Mayor, I just referenced the council to the very end where even approving this, you know, when it comes back, the planning commission and city council have full discretion in approving or disapproving plans or sites. So it's there in number 3. So I think everything's covered there.
Now, these are the minimum standards, and additional conditions can be implemented as part of the project.
And I think, in just speaking as far as we did kind of go in the weeds on this, but I think because what's driving these changes is this specific project. And so I think there are questions in that. Obviously, there will be more questions, but I think what Matt's got, I think the way it's written, it's very well done. I think it solves a lot of the questions we'll have.
Mayor, can I make one comment?
Yeah.
If we bring this back, as I think about this more, thinking about this idea of having a lien on the property, I would probably make one small change, but I think it's an important change in paragraph G. And that is, I would probably add a bit of language here just to make clear that the lien that the property would be subject to would actually have the priority of the recorded development agreement. In other words, so that if later we had to enforce that lien would be prior to, any other encumbrances, including, yeah. So that's one thing as I think about this where I could strengthen this a bit. And so that would be one change I would make if we bring it back for a vote.
Okay. Any other comments, council?
I just had one, sorry. So just so I'm clear, we talked about other gates in the city in front of homes and other communities, but our prohibition is only for planned development, correct? So if you're in R110, you can put a gate up on your property, right? Am I misunderstanding that? That the no gated communities is only for PD zones.
That's correct. That's where it's located in the ordinances.
So if you're any other zone, you can put up a gate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes.
So that would explain how we ended up with gates in our community. None of those were PD zones.
Well, no, they were all PD zones. Every one of them
Okay.
were PD zone. I'm just thinking, but I couldn't do a R110 subdivision with a gate.
You couldn't or could?
Because it creates private street. Private streets aren't allowed by the ordinance. You have to have, an R110 subdivision requires frontage on a publicly dedicated road. So the only ones you really can do it in is a PD.
And that probably explains why this is where it is.
Anything else, council? Thank you, Dade. Thank you, Rick, for your
Thank you
input
very
tonight.
much. Thank you.
Mayor, I need to be excused.
You're gonna miss
All right.
staff reports, so it's the most
I know.
important
I'd
thing
love
here.
to stay for reports. I got a boy wrestling and I'm gonna
Go,
go.
buddy.
I'm gonna head out.
Wish him well, cheer loud.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ben. Number 3, staff reports. Who wants to go first? Captain Rogers, anything?
I was just going over numbers and stuff for the department. We just hit, this is the first year since the combining of the two cities where we get over 5,000 calls for the year. So that's
Not really a celebratory thing.
no. So anyways, other than that, I don't have anything major.
Things going okay?
Yeah, everything's going really well. I tell you, I know there's a bunch of stuff going on right now back in DC, but just our community, I just want to just reiterate that it's been awesome. I mean, I've been in law force now for 20 years, and I've never seen the support that we've had from both Ivans and Santa Clara. It's been amazing to see the citizens rally around us, and I mean, even I've had the courts call up and say many times that people come in to pay tickets and tell us how awesome the officers were and nice they were, and just thanking us for our jobs, and they're paying a citation. So it's been really good. We've other than that, this has been great. This last year has been hard on everybody, but we really appreciated the support from you guys, but also the city citizens. It's been great.
Problems in the South Hills. Do you guys routine
You know,
patrols
there,
out there?
we're getting, you can't go up there any day without having somebody up there shooting. And you can't go there anytime where they're up there shooting and most of the parking lots up there are full or half full. So there's a lot of bikers up there, a lot of hikers up there, and you have a lot of people shooting up there. So that's kind of the only major safety concern we have is with that. But other than that, we don't have any major issues or calls or things like that, other than a few medical calls and stuff that come from accidents.
Well, gun show. Okay.
No.
Questions for Captain Rogers, council?
All right.
Thank you. Chief?
All right, yeah, we're doing well. We do have the ability now to do our own rapid testing for COVID. We've got a state license, lab license that allows us to do testing for our own first responders, fire, police, EMS. And we are starting to get the vaccine for the first responders coming through. So we'll be getting that for those that want it. Our calls have been up this year, the most we've ever had as well. Last month we did 85 medical calls and 29 fire calls. Of those 85 medicals, we had 47 of those that were transported, and the others were lift assists or treat no transports and things like that. So we've been busy, but we ended the year. It was a great fireworks show all around the city, and we didn't have any fire calls or anything that night, so it was really quiet and calm for us, and that was good. So other than that, we're doing well and just going forward.
Questions for Chief Hancy? Lena, just jump in if you got anything. Thanks, Chief. Bradley?
I just wanted to go over the events that we're going to have this month. Tournaments, we have a tournament, girls fast pitch tournaments. We have one starting the 14th of January through the 18th of January. It's 4 days. First game starts at 8 in the morning. Last game starts at 8 p.m. and these will be at Goobler. Goobler is the only fields that can do girls fast pitch. We also have a tournament 22nd through the 24th. And the January 30th, we have the Sun Marathon. This is about the 4th year we've had it. It starts out at Goobler Park, goes up Rachel Drive into Ivans, and then up into Gunlock. So it's very, very little impact on the city other than using Goobler Park and exiting or returning on Rachel Drive. That's really all I have, unless you have some questions for me.
I got a couple.
Go.
I heard the doors aren't working on the Glockenspiel again.
We
Is that
have
still going on?
we have a door on the front that doesn't want to close when it gets cold. It's a motor issue. I have the barrel sitting in the entrance here. I ordered a new barrel with the new motor in it. It's supposed to be a lot better than the motor that was installed in those doors. I've had Dane out probably 15 to 20 times in the past 6 weeks to adjust the door so it'll close. So with that storm coming up, we decided, in the wind, we decided to close it to protect the Glockenspiel. And we contacted Mirror Garage Doors, who did the installation of the doors. Spencer Mirror, he's the one that wants to come out and repair it. And we called him again today to try to get him to come out. So there's a little bit difference in the hookup, the electrical hookup of the motor, but it's made specifically for the Glockenspiel. It's the same company, Illumitech, that we bought the doors from. So we're working on it, and we hope to have it up and working very soon.
Yeah, I was just curious if we needed to start over on the doors or something, but I guess we can give that a shot for sure. And then I was also wondering about the Swiss Memorial Park, kind of what's going on there, how the progress is going with the grass and everything.
Swiss Pioneer Memorial Park, we've got new sod in, and I checked it. As a matter of fact, I checked it today. It's been watering routinely. I checked the rooting on it. It's actually rooting and looking very well. So got a couple of final details to work on the walking path in the back that the contractor needs to complete. We've got a few other minor details like putting up wagon wheels on the wall and things like that, and some hopscotch things that we're going to put in the concrete, but essentially it's completed except for that.
Very good. Okay. And then just so staff knows and council, I did see Sherelle at the Chamber of Commerce lunch today. She approached me a little while ago about just being a little more involved in the community and getting to know businesses, maybe for sponsorships or just other partnerships. And so I think today was maybe her first luncheon she'd been to. And I know we'd gotten that email from Dawn over the chamber asking who might want to be on an email list. And she wasn't included in that. So I wondered if we wanted to include her in that. And Brett, you may know kind of what her goals are there, but she seemed to enjoy it today. So just wanted to bring that up.
She's interested in.
It's been useful for us when we sponsor events and things like that to, be involved in the larger community for sponsors and things like that also. So it'd be very helpful for her to be involved in that group.
When's the last time the economic development group met? Did they get a new chair?
Not that I'm not aware of.
Staff works with that group.
Itsy? That does economic development.
Yeah.
Itsy.
Follow up with Ditzy.
Okay.
It'd be nice to have somebody from that group also on that chamber email list if they're interested. I'm curious, I know their chair left and I'm not sure they've done anything since their chair left.
Not aware of any meetings. Okay.
Any other questions for Brad? Jackster?
Just pretty much normal maintenance on the public works side. I know they're doing a lot of crack sealing. We've had a couple water breaks that they've repaired. We've got a lot of commercial stuff going in. We've had a lot of power installed in a lot of these different developments and trying to get all these commercial sites going. We've been working on some right-of-ways with Ryan Anderson down here to stop the issues that we have behind his property to get the water to go into a storm drain pipe and bring it out to Santa Clara Drive. And I think we've got that worked out, and it looks like all the owners of the properties are willing to sign the easements, and I've sent those to them. And hopefully we can get that project done. Ryan has a building approved in the back of that white house. He's been waiting a number of months to get built. And he's just been waiting for us to get these right-of-ways and take care of the water issue back there, storm drain issue. Let's see, Tuesday, we had our pre-bid meeting on the water line project. Oh,
Captain Rogers just left.
Okay,
We just waited.
in the South Hills. And
This is
we
what
had.
cuts you up. This is okay.
Okay. We had 12 contractors that were there. So we had a good turnout, and there might be more that we'll put bids in on them. Terry Brotherson, some of you might remember him when we had the floods. He was actually here. One of the other guys from Mount Pleasant that used to do all the gas work here, Barton. He actually came here, and I think they're both interested in putting in a bid. Good guys. So anyway, we're moving forward. We were working very hard and very diligently for the last year to try to get the right of way from the BLM to make sure we can get this water line in that comes down from the water tank and then over to the edge development and then down to Gates Lane. And we finally got the comment period over. There was no comments, and then we weren't able to get a hold of the BLM and no response back. And so I finally asked Rick to see if he could get a response using the mayor's hat. And just like that, we got a response, and they've signed it and said that we'll have the right of way by the end of the week. So thank you, Mayor. So we've got the right of way now. I'm still working on one more right of way from Kyle Hafen and that group on the Camp for Eyepiece, and that doesn't seem, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. When we got the engineer estimates for the line, I was surprised, you know, how high it is. And I was a little shocked about, we've got to have a pump to boost, a booster pump to pump the water from the water tank up to the park area. And you can see there, I think the price of that was $220,000. And Brad doesn't plan on putting an awful lot of water up there on the park. He just wants some bathrooms and maybe a pavilion and a drinking fountain and maybe just a little bit of grass for, you know, somebody to lay down a blanket. We don't know if there could be more up there in the future, but I thought, wow, do we really want to pay this much money for a booster pump to push that fire hydrant flow up to that park? And well, that's a lot of money. And then I got thinking, in our master plan, we actually have another water tank that's going to go, could possibly go above if the South Hills continues to develop or something changes out here, or we get once, I mean, we pretty much drained that tank in the summer months. It has a hard time filling back up. And at the city yard, we're eventually going to have put another booster pump in to pump the water up. It feels like a bathtub because the Snow Canyon tanks are higher than this tank. So it fills basically from the bottom up. But if there's not enough pressure, it doesn't fill. So we might have to put another booster pump. It's in the plan down at the city yard to boost the pump up to that water tank. And then eventually for more storage, we plan on putting another tank further up the hill. And so all the piping and the building would actually work for the future pump. We could just enlarge that pump using the same spools and everything in that building to be able to push that water all the way up to the next water tank. So looking at that, it kind of changed my mind. And it says that that's an engineer's estimate. I believe that it'll come in less than $200,000 to do all that.
You're going to go ahead and put the fire pump in?
Right. Okay. Yeah. If it's okay with council. Also, I forgot, I got looking in our impact fee study, and we actually have $158,000 in our, it's one of our 10 projects that we have in our study. And so we're not that far off from, you know, this was done in 2018, and so costs have increased. So we're, you know, we might be 200, we might be 190,000, but that was approved in our impact fee study. So I think we should move forward with it for future growth.
And if you put it in this one, you don't have to do the new pump station at the city yard in the future, right?
No, we'll still have to put another one
Still
in.
have to put another one
Yeah, that's correct. So I just kind of wanted to get the feel of the council. We're one of the reasons we've pushed, we bid this in December. We're put it out to bid. So it's been advertised, and we've got the contractors that we're going to receive them on the 12th. But we have to get a certain area up along the reserve. We've got to get that edge that goes over to the edge, back down to where the turnoff is. We've got to get that in before the tortoise start to move. If not, we'll have to push the project back and wait clear till September, and probably won't be done till September, October to finish the water line. So we're trying to get this bid, get it done, get that section in, and then if they have to hold off for a little while and then come back and put in the other section. That's why
This will
we're.
give you a redundant line from Larry Hills and Gates up to near the tank, right?
Yeah, yes, it'll go from the tank down to the turnoff, come down off the steep hill and tie in behind the PRV valve right there at Fair and Levitt's place. So it gives us another redundant line to come down.
But I think that's important. If we lost that main line going up through the hills to the tank, you lose the tank.
Right.
So having a second line up there is really important going into the summer season.
Yeah,
Try
it
to
helps.
use that all you could.
And then to provide water to the 80 acres over here on the hill, we can't, we'd have to put a booster pump at the base by the bridge and try to boost it up. And so we're bringing that line all the way over to that edge property. And when it develops, they can connect to that line, and then that'll tie all the way around and give us another feed back down to the
Back
bridge.
into the downtown. No, I think it's a good project.
So this will be coming back to you to award the bid to the contractor on the 13th. And I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. And then if you're fine with this pump house and what we've designed here, I'll just tell them to go ahead and leave it in the bid in the project.
Council, feedback? I think I'd leave it just like you got it.
Okay.
Based on what you just said.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else, Jack?
Nope, that's all I've got.
Corey?
So building is steady. We're at 58 new homes. Your building department tax reports in your packet. New homes and plan review, you got one. The various permits from December 1st to the 13th was 13. Outbuildings, additions, pools, etc. We've got a solar permit that's out. Currently 253 active building permits. We did 272 building permits and stormwater inspections in December. We have quite a bit of commercial subdivision development going on, and I left you a list of what's been inspected in to this part, this stage of development, so you'd be in the now. About 6 different subdivisions there. If you have any questions on any of that, I'll be happy to answer them. And then the Planning and Zoning Department, Planning Commission is going to look at Wenchett Retail Center, public hearing on the 14th of January, and then also O'Reilly Auto Parts project plan. Some miscellaneous things there on the Planning Commission schedule. Building maintenance, we keeping up on building maintenance, and we installed 8 hand dryers, part of the CARES Act, so that we're more sanitary in our bathrooms. That's really all I had. Is there any questions for me?
Good report, Corey. Thank you. Any questions for Corey? This helps me when I go to my mayor's meetings, having that stuff. Rob?
I don't have anything to add to what they've.
Nothing?
I've got some questions for you.
I attended the groundbreaking yesterday at the county, which was fun. Attended that. Nice looking building.
Administration. Go ahead, June. I got some questions for Brock.
Just what's the status of camera install here in the building? And
Camera installs here is done. If you're talking like the security cameras, they're in. One in that corner, there's one in that corner. They're in throughout the building. There's one on the exterior that they had trouble getting to by the location. They tried to get there with a scissor lift thing, and it got stuck in the landscaping, so they're gonna have to come back in time and get like a bucket truck, a little boom. They had told us in advance Jack would have been able to get but 1 or 2, so we have one camera that's not. So their cameras are here, minus that one. Then we're still working on our ones in the parks and out that we got bid back. It's a little more expensive than what we had anticipated, so we're just gonna prioritize what we need done. Also, there's a few things I think we can do to reduce that cost as well. So we need to work with InfoWest on the internet connection that maybe we can get without having to do some of the infrastructure that they're proposing that will reduce the cost as well.
Are these working?
Yep.
Now we can type in Mayor Rosenberg and it'll find you everywhere you've been in the building.
Wherever I am.
Yeah.
Tell me with a blue shirt, you'll find you.
And then I was going to ask about the CARES funds, where it was extended, the usage of it, correct? Did that affect any of our plans with that money? Or did we spend it all before the end of the year anyways?
It was not all spent. We had everything that we did, we tried to get done. The thing we just put off was the cameras in the parks that we just kind of said, okay, we'll slow down and not rush that. So other than that, that's our last project that we have that of our CARES fund. Other than that, what we had left, we were just going to use for the wages and benefits for public safety. So.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
No.
I got three things. I emailed you guys a response I got from Dan Fry today regarding Vineyard. Jack, you should have got it too. Just some of the results of the citizen committee. They're unanimous on recommending the reconstruction of Vineyard Drive, including curb and gutter and sidewalk.
Yeah, wow,
Unanimous.
exactly.
Absolutely no interest in a trail or a plant strip. Those were a couple options we gave them, but they're finally unanimous on curb and gutter. They want to prioritize starting on the east end, down the hill from Bruce and Sherry Anderson's house. They feel like that's the most dangerous. There was no consensus on the recommended method of assessment, frontage, area, or ERU. He says, to be honest, most seem to be in favor of whatever was least expensive for them personally. That's a shocker. He says the city will need to make that decision based on what they feel is the most fair to all involved. So you guys get the big shoulders on that one. We think the helpful, the committee will be willing to contact all the property owners on Vineyard. I think these opinions are just from the committee, so I am going to ask him if he would at least make an attempt to, and then get that information back to us. So anyway, there is some progress on the resident side on Vineyard. I sent you guys an email today, concerning the emails that you probably got from Bella Sol residents. Hopefully you understood what I put in there. When that subdivision was originally improved, it wasn't just 2 access points, it had 3, counting the one that extends to the east. That was a master planned collector road that extended all the way over to Red Mountain. So the revisions that were presented for the Solis development maintained 3 access points and eliminated the master plan collector road. So it should reduce the traffic in the subdivision significantly from what is approved today. Now, I want to make sure you guys understood that that master plan road had been moved to the south and doesn't affect Bella Sol. They asked about a 4-way stop at the intersection. We can do warrant studies on any intersection in town that's required for a 4-way stop or a signal. What I would probably recommend is the way I understand it, the Solis zone change requires a traffic impact study at Rachel, and the new road, the new master planned east-west collector, is complete that first. If we decide to put a signal at that point, the 4-way stop probably wouldn't meet warrants up to the north. So I don't think the traffic on coming out of Bella Sol is going to warrant a 4-way right now, but I would still wait until you get the new study done, because I think the signal is a better location, not at Northtown and Rachel, but at Rachel and the new road.
Is it coming in across from the school or north of the school?
It's just north of the school. And it's a good look. I think it'd be a better location for a signal because it's a 3-sided intersection. But it's on the outside of that band. And I think your bigger traffic conveyor is going to be that east-west road that goes over the Black Desert, not up through Bella Sol. And so let's get that study done before we put a lot of expense into considering the one up there. So I just wanted to give you guys that input in case you're getting hit by residents. You can use it in your response. to them, and but the traffic through Belsol should come down significantly. I mean, it should just be a fraction of what it was going to be with that when that East West Road like Desert opened up. The third thing is down at the Heritage Square at the LDS Church. If you haven't been back there, there's a new red cinder block wall that goes all the way around the parking lot, cuts across the city property. We shut them down when they started based on some drainage concerns, but after Jack and I went over and walked through the site, the drainage concerns that we've got at Heritage Square, the wall's not the drainage issue. The location of the basement entry is at the low spot of the lot. So the lot floods the home. So I think Jack's gonna have his guys go over there and look at it, and we're gonna come up with a plan to improve the drainage protection for that building. We're gonna move the access gate over closer to the church where the opening is in the wall now. I've explained it to Sherry over the phone. I'm waiting for her to get a hold of me. We're gonna go walk it. Brad, I'll get a hold of you and Jack. Come go with me. You can save me and protect me. But I just wanted to bring council to where, in case you're approached, the agreement with the church for the parking lot, that the church can cut off the city's use of that parking lot with just a 30-day notice. There's nothing to protect the long-term use of the church property for parking. The city's need to be able to use that is higher now than it ever has been because we built the new Swiss Memorial Park without any parking. So in my mind, the ability to protect the integrity of that church parking lot and that agreement that we have with the church to be able to use it is a little more important than building the fence across the city line. So the use of the church parking lot doesn't change. It hasn't changed since before. The access to Heritage Square is going to move, and I think it's going to be better, and it'll protect Heritage Square from flooding by keeping that drainage on the church side behind a wall. It also protects the residents on Victor Street, Stan, and everybody over there that would get flooded because the water goes down into that corner, overtops the gutter, and goes to the east and to the south. So they were pushing the church to build that wall to help protect them from flooding. We get some flood protection for the Heritage Square site as part of the same thing without any cost to the city. Now we just got to go back and retrofit some of the sidewalks in Heritage Square, which Jack's agreed to let his guys help us out with. And then also do a little wing wall around that stairwell. I volunteer as guys. They're good. They do a good job. So why should I pay a contractor to do a crappy job and I have Jack guys do it? So we got to do that part of it. And so we need to get together over there. Sherry was gone during the holidays, so I've been waiting for her. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of how that came about. That came about during the Christmas break. Everything happened. I got a call. I was out of town. I got back. I made a decision. But after looking at the agreement, I think it's the right decision because the church has been really good for the city right now. I don't know if I've told you, but you guys are aware they're going to give us the orchard and the building and the $28,000. The only thing we didn't get was the tractor.
I understand the tractor's already gone.
Yeah, the tractor disappeared like the next day. Before we could go down there and hide it, it disappeared. No, they're giving us that money. So we can use it to move the building or build a pavilion or a statue to Denny or whatever we want to do down there. But I think the terms, do you remember the terms?
I'd have to go back and look at the emails.
They're pretty simple.
It is pretty simple. I mean, it's basically the church is just going to donate the property. There are some conditions as far as the use that it can be used for because they want to honor the original intent of the family that gave it to them. So the church or the city will have to agree to those conditions, but other than that, yeah, they're basically releasing the funds or releasing the city from any obligation to pay those additional funds and giving the property over. So,
We've got to put it in perpetual open space.
right.
I didn't see any issue with any of those concerns. That's the only thing we didn't get.
Right. And I think there's going to be things that we'll have to talk about how to manage it going forward, because I don't know that the church is going to provide the manpower that they have in the past. Maybe they'll want to, I don't know. But
I'm hoping that the service missionaries, that the opportunity it provides, that maybe they would help us with that. I think we need to start looking at maybe creating a foundation, a historic farm foundation that can raise some money, donations that you can donate to, you can donate time to, putting a committee together, and possibly, have some of the senior city councilmen age-wise that are experienced with the downtown, man and chair that committee longer than city council assignments, maybe a 10-year deal. Anyway, there's some things that have to happen, but I think that's a win-win for the city.
There's one senior a little older than the other, so that would work well.
Hey, he's got some experience with farming too, huh? That's what I heard, yeah, okay. All right, so things are moving good on that. I just wanted to bring you guys to speed on that. Anything from the council before we adjourn? Anything to report? Any questions for the staff? Okay. Press is left, so I can't ask her if she has any questions. Staff, anything? Not passed yet, Jackie.
It'll come back.
It's like Santa Claus. Don't lose your good behavior yet. All right. Thanks, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
See you next week.
Oh, Lena, I forgot to come back to you. Did you have anything?
Too late, we're gone.
No, I'm good. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Feel better. You feeling okay?
Yeah, doing okay. Just cough and sore throat. I'm past the worst of it, so we're good.
Okay, well, don't overdo. Get better. We need you.
We'll do. See you then.